You and I have talked before about Bill Gates. I did not know how much of the UN's World Health Organization budget is funded by and therefore directed by that man.
Yes.
By what
I would,
virtue? He's not a medical doctor. He's not a medical researcher. He's a God complex billionaire who
yes.
is obsessed with his quirky visions of what public health are. He, as much as Dr. Tedros, I think he has much more sway than Dr. Tedros because he's permanent and he's the money. Tedros reports to Gates, not the other way around.
Yes, and there's been reports that Tedros is beholden to China. Remember, this is the same World Health that went in January of 2020, went to China and said, if you want to know how to stop a virus, copy China, which was their exact phrase.
Yeah.
Bill Gates, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and through his vaccine company, Gavi, you combine the two, it exceeds all the donations China gives. It exceeds the U.S. contribution. He is the #1 single donor. So a simplified way, by the way, to look at the pandemic, the World Health Pandemic Treaty, is to simply say a Bill Gates funded scientist at the WHO can declare a pandemic and we can have global instant lockdowns without any outliers. And the key to that is they don't want another Sweden. They don't want another Ron DeSantis in Florida. They want to absolutely crush dissent, and everyone's got to be on the same page, because when you get even a few outliers like Sweden, you can start looking at things like excess deaths. You can start realizing that lockdowns and the vaccine may have killed more people than they potentially saved. And that is what they're trying to do with that. And so Bill Gates is an amazing figure because he's got his fingers in American agriculture, #1 farmland owner. He's pushing the fake vegetable oil processed meat. He's pushing the lab grown meat. He and Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, 3 billionaires, pushing lab grown meat and funding it, at least in the case of Gates and Richard Branson, which is stem cells from a cow, sheep, pig mixed with fetal blood, put into a petri dish, and then in a steel vat, printed on a 3D printer. It looks
That's so crazy. I find that so gross. It's so repulsive. They're trying to normalize something that's so. I find it shocking. I can't even look at that artificial meat being made by 3D printers without gagging.
Well, don't worry, because you don't have to eat the 3D meat if you're interested in protein, the lab grown, because Aldi's supermarket, it has now been reported, UK Daily Mail, is considering selling edible insect packs to help families afford protein. If meat becomes too expensive because they're rationing it with methane concerns, and you don't want to eat lab-grown meat, you're going to have these family edible insect packs available at your local supermarket where you can beef up on max out on the protein, so you'll make sure you get your right nutrition. This is what our public health is pushing on us now.
It's so
and
unnatural.
It's frightening stuff. But Bill Gates, again, involved in agriculture, involved in the vaccines, involved in blocking the sun through research through Harvard University, involved in the World Health Organization. I mean, he's got it's like his hands, fingers, and tentacles are in every aspect of our society, involved in censorship, involved in pushing the COVID lockdowns. He's told the West, if anyone wants to know what to do in the next outbreak, Bill Gates' answer is simple. Copy what Australia did. Follow Australia's model. And Australia was probably the most totalitarian response to COVID next to China, with maybe a close third, Canada. I think Australia may have exceeded. I don't know. You can debate that, who was worse, Canada or Australia. But Australia had the quarantine camps, the track and trace apps. They had police raiding your home if you did a Facebook thumbs up to a anti-COVID lockdown rally.
You know what? You're right. We watched Australia through the eyes of our Australian reporter, Avi Yamini, who just by chance was based in Melbourne, which was the most locked down city in that country. Yeah. Other states in Australia, not so much, but that place called Victoria, in which Melbourne's a big city, it was so astonishingly locked down. And you mentioned China. The premier of that state, if I'm getting my titles wrong, his name was Dan Andrews. He was very close to communist China. In fact, this is so bizarre. He's not a national leader. He's the subnational territorial level. He went and negotiated his own foreign treaty with China for the Belt and Road Initiative, and he kept it secret. So he's not the federal government. It would be as if some state governor went to China and negotiated a deal. Oh, and didn't tell anyone what was inside it. That's how crazy Victoria, Australia was.
We had something similar. Governor Newsom had a Chinese climate summit with Xi Jinping a couple of years ago.
Right. I
acting
remember
as
that.
though he was a head of a state, not head of a nation, not a head of a
But at least
state.
he didn't sign a treaty to join the
he may have signed some agreement between California, but the pomp and circumstance was they made you think.
Right. I thought they were auditioning Gavin Newsom to maybe take over for Joe Biden.
Well, that may be happening. That's why this is unprecedented in American political. Never happened. A debate coming up in June in about a week. Never happened. And they think it's the Democratic Party donor class, deep state, basically auditioning Joe Biden. If he falls flat, we may see Gavin Newsom yet.